Elizabeth here from the Everyday Storyteller, and I am back with a 5-minute Photoshop tutorial. So let's get started. In this video, I'm going to be sharing how I isolate elements from journaling cards to create new elements. So I'm going to show you what that looks like right here. So when we're talking about isolating specific items from a page in Photoshop, a great way to think about this is fussy cutting something out of a piece of paper. So let's go back to our original page. Of course, we want to make sure that this layer, the background layer, is unlocked. So if there's a little lock symbol here, we're just going to click on it and unlock the layer. And that just allows us to move it around and make edits to it. So first of all, I am going to take care of these icons that I no longer want on my paper. So I'm going to show you two ways of doing that. First, I'm going to use my rectangular marquee tool. And once I have my frame of marching ants, I'm going to make sure that my cursor is here in the middle. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say layer via cut. If I go over here to my layers panel, you can see right here that there is a new layer that looks like the shape that I created. And if I hide that layer, you can see that I just cut out that shape from my paper here. This time, instead of the rectangular marquee tool, which just makes like a rectangle around the object, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I use the lasso tools. You could use the rectangular marquee tool, but because of the way that this paper is styled and because of the way that I'm going to fill in the cutout space, I just prefer using the lasso tool because it makes it a little bit easier to fill in. So I just created this airplane marching ants line, going to right click, layer via cut. That gives me that airplane icon and a brand new layer. Going to go over to my move tool and move that airplane icon over here to this grid square. So I'm going to go over to my tag. This is where I'm getting my words from. Again, if it has a lock symbol on there, so say it looked like this, I would go ahead and click on the lock icon, and that would make it so that I can move this tag around and make edits to it. So there are two ways that you can do this. You can use the rectangular marquee tool to make a rectangle out of the words, so the word that you want to add. In this case, for me, it's go. And then right click on the marching ants box, say layer via copy. Here you can see we have isolated our go with that blue background. And when that is isolated, you can make sure that that layer is selected over here on the layers panel and go over to the magic wand tool or press W on your keyboard and click on the background. So in this case, that is the blue. I'm going to also press the shift key on my keyboard and click inside the O so that I'm selecting all of the blue background. I'm going to right click, say layer via cut. And as you can see, I am left with this go word all by itself. All right, so the other way that you can isolate word art like this is actually by using the magic wand tool. So I'm going to select the magic wand tool either by clicking on it or pressing W on my keyboard. And then I am just going to make sure that my cursor is inside the letter. In this case, it is the S. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to hold shift on my keyboard and go over here to the E, click again, and then go over to this one to click the E. So if you're holding down the shift key, it allows you to select more than one item at the same time, which works really well with phrases like this where you want to keep all the letters together. Now that I have marching ant outlines around all of my letters, I'm going to make sure that this layer is selected. So I'm on the original layer and I'm going to right click and say layer via copy. And now I have my letters without any background. So that is two different ways to do that. Either way is fine. One of them just has an extra step. So maybe you're thinking, that looks great, Elizabeth, but what about the big gaping holes that you have in your pattern paper? Well, friend, we're going to solve that. So all of these, the go, the see, the do, and the airplane are all on their own layers, and that is exactly where we want them for right now. We're going to go to our base layer. If we take away all of these other layers, you can see that I am left with the base pattern paper with all of these holes in them, and that is what we want to correct. We want to fill in these holes. We're going to go over here and use the brush tool, and you're going to make sure that your color picker is on the color of your pattern paper. So in this case, it's going to be that blue color right here. And now your brush tool is going to paint with that particular color, with this foreground color. Obviously, you can adjust your brush size depending on if you need it to be smaller or larger. One of the reasons why I prefer the lasso tool quite a bit is because it's just a smaller area that you have to fill in, which is a really good thing, especially if your background is not just a solid fill. Maybe it's like a hatch or just a slight textured element. For that, you would have to use the clone tool instead of the paint tool to mimic the texture, and a smaller amount of space to have to fill in is definitely worthwhile in that case. And then the last thing that I'm going to do to finish up is I am just going to merge all of these into one layer. So I'm just going to select all of the layers here in my layers panel, right click, and then down here there's a option for merge layers. And that just puts them all into one single layer. I like doing that just to make sure that if I'm copying and pasting this background onto an 8.5 by 11 canvas to print it out with something else, I'm not missing any elements. I just have one layer to worry about, and that just makes it easier for me. This is our new pattern paper. In this video, we learned how to use both the rectangular marquee tool and the lasso tool to isolate elements from a background. We also practiced using the brush tool to paint over spots that we have cut out of a background. And we also dove into using the magic wand tool a little bit when we copy and pasted our go, see, do words. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any ideas of what you would like to see me tackle next, definitely leave a comment down below. I hope that this video was helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.